Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are cracking the code on a Selenium question that trips up so many people, even experienced developers. We're going to get to the bottom of a really common and kind of tricky interview question. All right, let's just dive right in. What is the real difference between driver.get and driver.navigate.to? I mean, come on, you've probably been asked this in an interview, right? On the surface, they look like they do the exact same thing. But as we're about to find out, the devil is absolutely in the details. And trust me, those details matter. Nailing this question isn't just about showing off some trivia. It proves you have a much deeper understanding of how WebDriver actually works under the hood. And, that can be the thing that gets you the job. So let's break this down piece by piece and really solve this thing once and for all. But hang on. Before we can truly appreciate the difference between get and navigate, we first have to zoom out and look at the whole family of commands that navigate is a part of. It's all about context. I want you to think of the navigate interface as your browser's remote control. Seriously, it gives you programmatic access to all the buttons you're already clicking by hand every single day. Let's just quickly run through them. First up, you've got navigate.to. This one's easy. It just takes a URL and loads the web page. Simple enough. But here's the important part, the big clue we're going to come back to. Functionally, it does the same thing as get. Next, there's navigate.back. This does exactly what it sounds like. It takes you to the previous page in your browser's history, just as if you reached over and clicked the back button yourself. And of course, any good remote control that lets you go back has to let you go forward, right? So, navigate.forward moves you one step ahead in your browser history. And to round out our little remote control, we have navigate.refresh. This reloads the page you're on. This is super useful in testing when you need to, say, check for state changes or clear out some cached elements. Okay, now that we know the whole navigation family, we've got the context we need. It is time for the big reveal. Let's finally put this interview question to bed. So here it is. It really just boils down to two key differences. First, the kind of data they accept. Driver.get will only take a URL as a string. That's it. Navigate.to is a bit more flexible. It can handle a string or a URL object. But the second point, that's the real kicker. Under the hood, Navigate.to is just a wrapper that actually calls the get method anyway. So yeah, navigate.to isn't some totally separate magical thing. When you use it, it just looks at what you gave it, converts it to a string if it has to, and then it just turns right around and calls driver.get with that string. Functionally, they both land you in the exact same spot. The source material really says it perfectly. There is no functional difference because one command is just calling the other. So while you could use either one to load a page, the key insight for that interview is knowing that Navigate is part of a broader toolkit for controlling browser history. So we've got it. Navigate is part of a bigger toolkit. Now let's apply that idea of precise control to a much, much trickier scenario, trying to manage multiple browser windows at the same time. And you are going to hit this scenario all the time in automation. Your script clicks a link and poof, a new window or tab just pops open. If you don't know how to control the driver's focus, your test will just grind to a halt right there. When your script first kicks off, life is simple. The driver has one window to worry about. It's identified by this unique ID called a window handle. The driver's focus is totally clear. But then, you know what happens? A click action happens, a new tab spawns, maybe a pop-up window. All of a sudden, your nice, simple, single window world is gone. And here is the trap. Even though you can see two windows right there on the screen, your driver is still staring at that original window. It's completely unaware that the new one even exists, so it can't interact with anything inside it. So to solve this, we basically have to ask the driver, hey, what do you see? The command for that is driver.getWindowHandles. It gives you back a collection, it's technically called a set, of all the unique window handle IDs for every single window that's currently open. These handles are your keys. They're everything. Once you have them, you can explicitly tell the driver where to focus its attention by using the switch to command. You just pass it the handle of the window you want to control. All right, now that we can switch between windows, let's learn how to close them with surgical precision. This is a real pro-level skill that brings together everything we've just talked about. First things first, a really critical distinction. Driver.close only closes the one single window the driver is currently focused on. Driver.quit, on the other hand, is the scorched earth option. It closes every single window and terminates the entire session. You do not want to get those two mixed up. So, how do you close one specific child window while leaving the parent one open? Well, the logic is actually pretty elegant. First, you get all the window handles. Then, you loop through them. Inside that loop, you switch the driver's focus to each window, one by one. You grab something unique, like its title, and you check if that title matches the one you're looking for. If you find a match, bam, you execute driver.close it, and your job is done. So there you have it, the complete toolkit for browser control. You can navigate through history, you know the real difference between Get and Navigate, and you can master multiple windows with total precision. The only question left is, now that you can control every window, what complex user journey are you going to automate next?